MMAOddsBreaker, of course. We've got Tom Watson. Again, he comes on with us all the time. We appreciate that. First of all, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, and everybody who watches the channel, obviously. So, yeah.
Did you what'd you do for the holidays? Because your fight's January 31st in Las Vegas. Obviously, it's UFC 138 for the folks at home, but you had to train right through Christmas, right through New Year's. You didn't get that time off. What did you do for the holidays?
Well, nothing really. I mean, I don't have any family in the States anyway, so most of the people I would say that didn't have a fight left town. A lot of people live in California that, particularly the fighters, I don't think they're from California. Really, the thing that probably helps me more than anything was Mark Munoz. Has his fight coming up in LA now, so yep. He has family here. He didn't go back to San Francisco, so I pretty much just trained exclusively with him for, a good 4 or 5 days until really normal schedule kind of got going again.
What's it like training with Mark? I mean, was it, he's got a whole brood over there. He's got like, what, 15 kids and like 7 wives, and he's got a house full of, he's
just one wife, I think. But yeah, he's a busy guy, he's busy with, a lot of obviously big into his wrestling program there and, big in with the church and different things. So, but it's good for me. It's great training. He has a lot of knowledge, arguably in an area that I've probably tried to work on for most of my career. Really, not growing up with wrestling makes it difficult. But I think, what he shows me and what he helps me with is, it's a lot more advantageous to me than when I've gone in a college practice room and really, I can kind of speed up what I'm trying to learn.
Right. Was scheduling a problem because he's such a huge family guy? And he has so many other commitments he has to do as well. Was it hard getting him to come in for training on time at the right time, when you guys schedule it? Or was there a lot of, hey, I got to push it to, whatever?
No, easy because for me, I don't have anything. So whenever he needs to do it, I can do it. Like, hey, 8 o'clock, I'll be there. 10 o'clock, I'll be there. My schedule is very easy. I'm not the type of person that says, hey, I need to train at this time, I need to do this, I'm doing this. Hey, you want to train then? Okay, I'll move it around and I'll figure out, we'll do this then, and I can do that then,
Let's go back to 2014. Personal life, fighting life doesn't make a difference. But what's the one thing that sticks out in your head if somebody goes in 5 years from now, they go, hey, what happened to you in 2014? What's the one thing you're going to remember the most?
It's difficult. I don't really go by years, so it's difficult for me. When everybody says, what's your New Year's resolution? What's this? And that really irritates me, and I'm not that type of person. It's like try to live by the day. I'm living by, I don't really think I did this that year, I did this that year, I don't really think like that, so I can't really answer that really.
What do you want to accomplish in 2015 in your personal life? Not fighting, not training, not getting supplement companies, not trying to get new gear. In your personal life, the life that most of us don't know anything about. Like, what's the one thing that you would like to accomplish?
I'm just trying to read a lot, to be honest. I get very interested in. It's quite funny because I never read at school. I went to college in England, but you read and you do stuff for whatever degree you're doing. But now, I feel that, I'm really sometimes I feel that I chose the wrong path in life. Like fighting, that's kind of pointless. Doesn't really, what are you really doing for the world and things like this. So I'd just like to. Spend a little more time just, trying to learn as much as I can about different things,
When we were supposed to fight back in Bama years ago, I found that out about you. I was like, well, this guy's kind of learned. He's like, he's a little bit more, like most, and as an American, we think that most English fighters they're fighters, and it's all they do is fight. And they don't read, they don't do anything, they just go out there and brawl. And I was kind of surprised to find out how much even then you like to read and like had different theories on life, and we're kind of looking around, and it's expanded. I've noticed a little bit. I'm a little bit of a stalker of yours, so I found out, I realized that you do read quite a bit right now. What book are you into, or what series of books are you into right now that you're kind of reading into?
I can't. I've tried, but I cannot read fiction. I tried my hardest, but it doesn't. I don't know. I find stories in non-fiction. So, right now I tend to be reading a lot about the environment. A lot of not going to say physics, but to do also a lot about the universe and. Just a lot of science-based, I'm really interested in, which is quite ironic because I didn't pass high school science, but You know, just I don't know. I find those things interesting. I find them relevant to me. That I think, you know, this is where I live. This is where I am. You know, I feel a lot of the time I don't really know, and you don't really get told, you know, a lot of what's going on in the world. So I feel like that's why I'm trying to get a little more knowledge. To think, you know, I've been doing this for a long time. That's really bad, you know, and just trying to get a bit more knowledge to make my own opinion of things rather than just, you know, somebody tells you something. That's what I find the biggest thing. Yeah. Critical of myself. You can relate it to fighting too. If somebody tells you, hey, this is the way to do this, this is the way to do this, and you think, you know what, you're right, and you start doing there, and then maybe a year down the line, you think, you know what, maybe that wasn't so good, you know?
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't fit for me. It might fit for somebody else, but it doesn't fit for me.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about your fight. Rafael Natal is your next opponent. You just beat Selim Alvi. Great fight. You're getting ready for another challenge, though. Natal's not an easy. You know, they're not giving you. UFC's not doing you any favors as of late. They're kind of giving you some guys that, stylistically on paper, should be giving you problems. You know, that's kind of how the matches are made. Yeah. What do you think about Natal as a fighter? And then how do you think this fight's going to go?
You know, as a fighter, look, he's a good fighter. Everybody in the UFC is a good fighter, but
CM Punk's in the UFC. He's never fought before. So you can't tell me every fighter in the UFC is a good fighter anymore. That standard does not stand anymore. Generally speaking,
if you make it to the UFC, you know, you have a decent skill set. But, you know, Natal to me is, you know, look, it's the first guy I've actually fought that has been finished in fights. You know, Tavares got finished by Tim Boach in Maine where I fought Alvi, but up to that point hadn't been, you know, I'm not going to say finished, but knocked out. You know, Sam Alvey never been knocked out. Tyler Slater's never been knocked out. You know, these guys, like I said, Tavares never been knocked out. Nedkov was never been knocked out. You know, so I felt the UFC were matchmaking me against guys that, hey, this is a tough guy, likes to stand and bang. Let's put exciting fights on. You know, those guys, it's a big difference when you fight somebody that as Natal has been knocked out. I don't know if it's twice, 3 times, but you know, been knocked out pretty heavy a couple of times. So
4 times he's been knocked out.
Yeah, we'll see. That for me is I think could be the key in this fight. You know, like I say, he has great jiu-jitsu. I think from what I watch in his fights, he's not super dangerous with his jiu-jitsu, but he's very good control. Wrestling, he gets takedowns, but I don't think his technique is great. It's more of frustrating his opponents with his movement and how he moves around. But yeah, even standing up, he's kind of wild. But I just think, you know, this is a big difference. And somebody has this chin that I've seen in him as opposed to the opponents I've had so far in the UFC.
He's been knocked out 4 different times. Tim Kennedy knocked him out, actually. I think and the last time he's been knocked out, I was knocked out by Tim Kennedy. Yeah. Obviously, everybody knows that follows you. You're a striker. You're a stand-up guy. It's going to be a stand-up war. You're going to test his chin. We all know that. So it's not like do I have to ask you what's your game plan for this? You're going to fucking smack him up a little bit is what you're going to try to do. But are we going to see some secrets because you've been training so hard and so long with Mark Munoz, and you really have been dedicating a lot of your training to wrestling and learning the wrestling game? Are we going to see a lot more of your wrestling implemented to help your striking now in fights? Or are you using your striking to help implement your wrestling in fights?
You know, it's hard for me to answer because I've had the last couple of fights I've gone into and I thought, you know, this could be a fight where I show this case of wrestling and maybe I'll go in with the intention of, you know, I'm going to try this and you know, the fight doesn't play out like that. So I think it depends a lot on how he fights. Most of his fights, I think he fights a similar way. I mean, he switches a lot, which I think has got him out of trouble in a lot of fights, but I think could put him in trouble in this fight. So we'll see. You know, I think on the ground I feel competent in my skills. Maybe I'm not an ADCC monster on the ground, but, you know, I feel very confident on the ground. Wrestling-wise, I feel I'm improving all the time. And, you know, I don't like to presume things of opponents, but I feel like he may be underestimating me and let me just take him down. And it wouldn't surprise me if I could catch him submission-wise in this fight if he comes with the kind of game plan I think he's going to.
Well, let's change gears. The hot topic right now is Jon Jones and cocaine. I mean, that's the hot topic right now in MMA. It's still ongoing. Are you surprised that it popped out like that? Are you surprised that he got caught for a drug like that?
I'm not really surprised, you know, at high level. And I think, you know, people whatever. But surprised in how the testing, when it came out, I thought he failed for the fight. And I saw he failed back in December, and I found that a little strange. And really, what's the point in testing him back then if you're not going to do anything about it? So.
And this is my one question about the whole thing. It's a specific test. It's a test for that. They tested for everything, but they're looking for, steroids essentially is what they're looking for, to find out if he's taking anything performance enhancing that's going to help him during the fight, with Daniel Cormier. They put in their cocaine, they put in their marijuana, they put in all the other stuff automatically in it, and he fails for coke, but then they don't do anything about it. If you're not going to do anything, like you said, why are you going to test for it then? It makes no sense. It's kind of strange.
It doesn't make zero sense to me, but, it's not... But, it's whatever. I feel that there's a lot of guys taking things that, don't get caught, and they know the dates they're going to get tested and different things. But it is what it is. I don't really care, to be honest, about most other people in the UFC. So.
To your knowledge, and you've signed with the UFC, so you're underneath the UFC contract, there is a morality clause in the UFC. To your knowledge, does this break the morality clause? If you were to do cocaine out of competition, so you can still fight, it's totally legal in Nevada. It was completely fine for him to be able to compete. They don't consider it, a fail. They consider he's passed, he's fine to go. But do you think if you did that, it was you that had done that it would have broken the morality clause that's in your contract?
I mean, I don't. Of course, I don't think it's even in question. I think most people with a brain would figure that out. But that's any business. If you're higher up, you're the guy that you're on the CEO. You're going to get away with a lot more than the guy that's lower down in the company. I think Jon Jones arguably is probably the best guy pound for pound out of all the divisions.
I argue that. I say he's number 2, but that I don't vote in the ranking system, so my vote doesn't count for anything.
Right, the numbers that he pulled, I think, were pretty high. So
he is the number right now. He's the number 1 box office draw. Right now, he is the number 1 box office draw.
So as a business point of view, that's obvious how it's going to be. If you're going to live in capitalism, that makes sense to be like that. So
my thing is that I'm a fan of Daniel Cormier. I'm a fan of Jon Jones. I don't care what they do outside of competition. I don't care what they do with their families. I don't care what they do with their wives or their girlfriends or their strippers, or I don't care. It doesn't affect me. I don't hang out with them on a regular basis, so it doesn't affect me. My children don't look up to them as role models, so it doesn't affect me. They have other people they look up to as role models. If they would look up to them as role models, I'd have to have a conversation. Every role model has flaws. You got to pick and choose, whatever. I just want to know how they fight. I just want to know if they're clean during the fight. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
From a business standpoint, I am all for what the UFC is doing. Are you kidding me? He is your number 1 box office draw. You're putting all your eggs in that basket whenever there's a problem. You're 100% going to back and 100% put it together. As Daniel Cormier wrestled Oklahoma State, which is the rival of my university, University of Oklahoma, I started wrestling in Oklahoma State. I have a more of a liking for Cormier than I do for Jones because of the fact that he did, both are wrestlers, but the fact that he went on to Olympic caliber wrestling.
Yeah.
I wanted to see it in no contest so that they have to do it again. So Daniel has another shot. I want to see that. But that's a fan talking. That's not the business guy talking. That's not the coach or the trainer or the CEO talking. So right now I'm kind of like, let's just see what happens, because I really don't, honestly, I don't give a shit. I really don't care. I just want to see what happens, but I would prefer it as a former competitor for the playing field to be level all the way across, not only with drugs and drug use, but also with how you're going to be treated with that drug use. If you get caught, everyone gets the same thing. If one person gets a Reebok deal because of the company, everybody should get a Reebok deal because of the company.
Yeah.
If one person gets caught for doing drugs and he's a 4-0 guy that's on the first fight of the night, he should get treated the same as a Jon Jones. That's just my personal opinion, but honestly, at the end of the day, I don't give a fuck. Let Jon fight again. I want to see him. That's all I care about.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's a little disappointing for me was, after this has happened, now it's come out that the UFC now, no random testing, they're handing it back to the commissions. And that for me was something that I think would have changed the game in the UFC a little bit, with random testing year round. A lot of people would have shit themselves, to be honest, thinking that somebody could turn up at my door any minute. I'm not saying for a steroid, for coke, for a performance enhancing, but it's a game changer, really. And
I
think
weed, for ecstasy, for Molly, like all that stuff, you get tested for all of it. So they pop at your door on a Sunday morning, and you just walked in the door from a night at the club, you might be out.
Yeah. yeah. So, but you know, it is what it is, and you know, as you mentioned, look, a fight's a fight, and too many people get carried away with, oh, this guy's like this personality, you know, what he does. Shut up. Nobody gives a fuck really about anything other than the fight, and soon forget. You know, not even a few years, the next day after you fight, you know, you watch the fight, you'll forget about the fight. Maybe you see the fight again a few years later, but you don't really, you know, people get so carried away with fighting, in my opinion. It's all about the fight, and that specific moment of time doesn't really last that long.
Have you been tested out of competition before?
Not out of competition, no. I've been actually, well, you get tested every fight, but sometimes they make you do a test after the fight too. They pick like maybe 6 or 8 guys to do before and after, and that's happened to me twice, but never random. No.
Tom Watson is fighting January 31st. UFC 183 coming up here, and of course MGM Grand Arena. I will be there. Actually, I'll be in town. I'm in town for that one. Super Bowl weekend for us. It's American football, not proper football. I apologize, but it's a big deal for us. I've been in
America long enough to know what the Super Bowl is. So
it's a big deal for us. I'm not sure you understand, but we have this ball. It's not round, and we actually I know it's called football, but we actually use our hands. I know it's strange, but that's kind of what we do. So they're plus MMA awards are the Thursday before. Like that weekend in Vegas is going to be huge for you. Unfortunately, you have to make weight on Friday, the 30th, fight on the 31st. You know, you'll be able to sit around and watch the Super Bowl if you decide to stay through till Sunday. I'm sure the UFC will have some parties and what have you to hang out. But definitely Thursday's the MMA awards. The Fighters Only MMA Awards, another English brand that is taking over the MMA world as far as the awards go. And so that's Thursday night, and then weigh-ins, and then the fight, and then Super Bowl. Like for me, living in Vegas, it's a great weekend. I'm going to have a great time.
Yeah. I mean, I tried really last year I fought on the Super Bowl card. Mm-hmm. You know, it was in New Jersey last year. Yep. This year again. So I'm just trying to, for me now with the UFC's model is try to get on the big events, you know, try to get on the pay-per-views, try to get on the big cards, and lucky really that this is another one that I think I'm the first fight on Fox. So, you know, you can't really get any better than that, in my opinion.
I said in the beginning of the interview, you're a lot smarter than people give you credit for. It's a smart move, and let's be honest.
Well, I don't look fucking very intelligent. So, but you know what is intelligence? You know, it depends what you know.
I got to be honest with you, that the haircut's not helping either. It's just
no.
It's just not helping.
What can you do with it?
Yeah, you're screwed. So, but yeah, Tom, it was great catching up with you. Are you gonna have an after party or have anything on Saturday night after the fight that the fans can come?
Hopefully, yeah. I'm still trying to figure that out, but hopefully, there's a decent amount of people coming from England. I don't think it'll be Ricky Hatton level, but there'll be a decent amount of people from.
Hey man, let's be honest. I saw Ricky in Vegas and said hi to him. I ran into him again just randomly in England when I was over there working for Bama. And he remembered that he had run into me. It was actually at the MMA Awards the year before. He actually remembered running into me. And nothing is like Ricky Hatton. I mean, not Pacquiao, not Mayweather. Nothing is like Ricky Hatton. You get over there. He is, and for the folks at home to understand, proper football or soccer, as we call it in the States, is huge over there. We're talking guys are bench warmers or superstars. So you're talking about a lot of fan base. Hatton legitimately has to have an entourage, not because he's a pompous prick, but because he can't go to the pisser without somebody wanting something from him. He is a superstar. It's incredible to see how nice he is and how genuine. And for a guy to get hit in the head as much as he gets hit in the head, remembers a guy like me. Like he remembered me. I'm like, and not from fighting. He just remembered meeting me. He never followed my fights, never saw my fights. He's not a fight fan of mine, at least. He just remembered. Oh yeah, I remember seeing you in Vegas. I'm like,
yeah, which is. I mean, 30,000 from England went to the Mayweather fight.
Yeah. That's nuts.
Which is ridiculous.
If you had half that, you'd fill out the MGM Arena.
yeah. So,
and that would make you the #1 draw for Reebok.
It would, yeah.
A lot of money with the T-shirts. So, Tom, do me a favor, please, and I mean this sincerely. Once you find out where your after party is or what you're going to do, even if it's like the day of, hey, I forgot. Text me, let me know where you're going at. I would love to come down and hang out with you Saturday night, especially after the fight, especially after. I'm kind of predicting a late fight stoppage in this fight. That's my prediction.
That's good because your predictions on here have come pretty close. I mean, the last fight was exact, really, to be honest.
I told Sam too, and I wasn't like I don't want anybody thinking I'm just telling you that. You know, unfortunately, I won't interview Rafael. But I interviewed Sam before the fight, and I told him this is what I think is going to happen. And he was like, okay, I'm gonna prove you wrong. I'm like, hey, dude, I want you to prove me wrong. But that's just kind of how I see the fight going. You know, it's just unfortunate for Natal is all I have to say. He's going home a loser. That's just my opinion.
I concur.
Beautiful. Thanks, Tom. I look forward to seeing your text, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for coming on, bud.
All right. Thanks, Frank. No worries.